Welcome to Rules of Villainy, episode 78, where three new trading card game players quest and challenge their way to the competitive top tables and discuss their opinions on Disney's Lorcana. This evening, we'll be reporting on the hottest news in Lorcana, answering your questions, and discussing the latest developments in the metagame as we get ready for DLC Richmond. I'm Villain Vince, joined as always by my two co-hosts, Villain Andy and the mayor of Lorcana himself, Brad. How we doing tonight, gentlemen?
Better. Way better than this weekend. This weekend was stressful, as you guys know. A lot of people here know. I had some cat issues. Had to leave our live stream, our big tournament at Impact Gaming Center early. But I want everybody to know that Toby is good. Toby is recovering and much better now. But it's a scary, scary weekend.
Well, I'm glad Toby is doing good. And surprise, or for everyone, if you haven't already noticed, this is not AI Vince. He is alive and well. He was not trapped underneath Cassian. We were worried that any number of...
As far as we know.
Well, as far as we know, you're right. This is exactly what
Cassian might have been like, don't you tell anybody about what's happened here today.
Someone who's... And then even when Vince messaged us and said, oh, I wasn't feeling well, I thought, you know what? If I just banished someone, that's exactly what I would text their friends, that were expecting to see them. So I was still a little worried. We had Vince do some, intensive Turing tests earlier to confirm that he wasn't actually AI. And we're glad to have you back, Vince.
Should probably
this
tell
is where
those...
I just unzip myself and I'm like a lizard person.
Those who are unaware, Vince did not make it to the live stream, this big 45% set championship that we were honored to live stream over the weekend. Is feeling under the weather, so happy to have him back, as Andy said.
But it was a blessing in disguise. Is that the right term? Because my co-host for the day, Brando from Lorcana Karaoke, who we all know, we've been on his show. He did an amazing job in his casting debut. So I was incredibly, I was very happy with the results, and it was super fun having him. He brought some cool games to play.
Yeah.
I've used the statistic. If you didn't, I don't know if you saw it, Vince, or if you guys didn't see it there. We went over the top 5 most played Amethyst cards, which happened to also be the top 5 most played cards in all of Disney Lorcana during this meta. And it's Genie, Elsa, Cheshire, Demona, Dumby, I believe, is the...
Oh, not Belle, huh?
Oh, maybe it was Genie, Dumbo, Cheshire, Demona, Elsa.
Yeah.
Brando will correct me in the comments. But I've used that stat like 10 times since I learned it on that live stream, and every time it's a crowd pleaser for sure.
Yeah, shout out to him. Like, we knew he was going to be great, and he carried a lot of weight there with Vince being under the weather. But I haven't watched the whole stream back. I got to spend maybe 10 minutes on stream with him, just as electric as ever. Such a great guy, and happy to have him on there. So shout out to him for making that stream so much fun. The times that I popped in to see it looked like you guys are having an absolute blast, and I hope the viewers did as well.
Yeah, we had a record high amount of viewers.
Nice.
So
nice.
I think we hit almost 90 or 100 viewers. I know we were rocking 80 plus viewers for a while there. So we really, really appreciate everyone who came and hung out. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We'll be doing it again for sure.
And our team captain, Jimmy, made it to the final table.
Yes.
On a deck that I did not believe in last week.
That's really why Vince was sick. You didn't want to have to commentate that game.
You heard Emerald Steel versus Amber Amethyst. You went, I'm going to stay home.
Yeah.
But
no, I wish. I'm still not feeling 100%. I'm hopeful to get to 100% though by this weekend, as I'm a lore guide. Woo!
Lore guide Vince.
Lore Guide Vince. Well, let's get into it. We got the Underworld news. So we've got DLC Richmond coming up. If you're listening to this, you're probably on your way. You're probably traveling for it if you're going to it. And we wish you the best of luck. But we also have some additional casting news that's coming up very shortly after Richmond. Andy?
Yes, Kirsten and myself have been invited to guest cast the Top Cut Games CCQ that is out in Arizona. I believe Glendale. Is that a place in Arizona? It's right outside the Phoenix area. So they're already looking at almost 200 players. I want to say we're into 8 rounds. There's going to be 8 rounds of Swiss, top 16 cut. Winner will get a ticket straight to nationals. So we're really excited to cast with the hosts Top Cut Games and Lorcana Muses, as well as I believe Enchanted Kim and Rebecca Quests and Nate, I believe, from the Muses as well. I apologize, Nate. I just met you, but he's also going to be casting there as well. So it's going to be a ton of fun. We're really, really excited for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can't wait for it. It's going to be exciting. And where can they find that? Is the link going to be in the description below?
You know it. Everything for Top Cut Games will be in the description below, as well as the Ravensburger Play Hub link for the tournament if you're traveling or just want to follow along at home in the standings. I'll have everything down below the next 2 weeks for sure.
Awesome. With that, let's get into your questions. Constituents Corner with the Mayor. Take it away, Mr. Mayor.
Right. Our first question comes from Mr. Materials in Aerospace. That's Ketchup Ryan on our Discord. He said, question for the villains. Timothy Q Mouse. What does the Q stand for? Anybody know? I know the actual.
Quentin.
It's quick step because nobody does a quick step like Timothy Q Mouse.
Quincy.
I mean, lore wise, Q, he doesn't have a it's just Q. That's
all right. That is actually correct, but I believe that it's quick step. So, or quick draw.
I say Quest. Quest.
Yeah, Quest actually makes the most sense for this
born to Quest.
Yeah, for 2 with his evasive buddy Dumbo. All right, second question from Jeff. He said, has this set been the most aggro-oriented meta game in Lorcana? I thought it was an interesting question.
I'm
Why not, Andy?
100% disagree. In fact, I think this set is less aggro-oriented than any other set, maybe. I don't remember all of them, but certainly less than last set. And I think what we've seen is aggro sort of counters control, right? And in this meta, we have some control decks, but we have a lot of mid-range. Mid-range eats up the aggro decks for sure. So with Amethyst Steel, Amber Amethyst now, those are both mid-range decks that can deal with aggro. Amber Steel is gone.
It almost got me on Saturday. It's still there. It's just it's not there as much.
Dogs is played, but it's a very skill intensive deck that I think is not as big a threat as maybe Amber Steel was in previous metas. I remember back in meta, set 2 and set 3 meta when there were control decks, but they weren't good enough to even get to B prep because you could just play Lilo and then Maleficent Lilo and then just in time a goofy bodyguard and they had no answer for it.
Yeah.
And you'd be at 20 on turn 4 easy.
Yeah.
So
and I think I want to preface Jeff, I think, is a newer player, if I remember correctly. I know we've been playing with him a lot more recently. I don't know if he was around earlier in the earlier sets, but I do agree with you completely that there was a lot more aggro builds that went a lot faster at the beginning or even in the middle, even most recently in Fabled, as we saw with Aiden, with Amber Steel just moving
and
so
dogs
fast.
Still.
And dogs the last couple of sets. Yep. But right now, they might feel fast, but I think it's more smothering now because it's very much a board heavy game now as opposed to 2 sets ago when we had massive board wipes for things like that with Sisu and Be Prepared and all those things that can take care of them pretty quickly. We do have Spooky Sight, which I did bring to Saturday, and it got to do it for that reason because I was scared of the aggro deck that I assumed Blake would be running, but unfortunately couldn't make it out to our set championship that weekend. But I aggro decks do exist. I don't think they're faster than ever, based from having played since set 1. I've seen very, very fast decks before this one. So, do you have any comments, Vince, before we move on?
I mean, you've both said it all, but I'll just add to say that, when you have a meta that is really dominated by mid-range and control decks, which is what we have now, the aggro decks are just not gonna rise to the top. And that's what we see. So I agree with Andy here that like this just is probably one of the least aggro metas we've actually had in Lorca.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout. I'll give a shout out to Jeff. He plays at I want to say he started playing and plays primarily at Wild Growth Games. So shout out Wild Growth Games, Jeff. I've met him. I played. We'll talk about it later when we get to the main segment. But I actually played him this weekend in Set Champs. And he's a great guy. He definitely is, I think, somewhat newer to the game, like you said.
But he's really good. Like he
the
last
he's
set
really good.
If you a run for your money, I don't remember who won that matchup, the last one at Wild Growth in Fabled, but I remember you guys going neck and neck, and I was impressed at his play for being, now that it's coming back to me, a newer player and holding his own with you in the top cut. So
he's very good.
I don't know, but yeah.
Yep. Next question.
All right, moving on. Our third question is from Nick from Lorcana Collections here on YouTube. He asks, is Amethyst Steel the most beatable, quote-unquote, best deck that Lorcana has ever had? And I thought it was an interesting question. I don't know the answer to it, but I know, Andy, you play a lot of decks. You do a lot more practicing than either of us. What are your thoughts on a question like that? Because you said last week, I believe, the meta seems like it's really wide open, right? Amethyst Steel is really consistent, but it is beatable. Is it the most beatable?
I would have to go through every meta and like quickly identify the best deck for me to know like for sure. What I will say is that as Vince stated that he was agreeing with me, I kind of thought in the back of my mind, oh shoot, maybe we're both going to look kind of stupid here, because what we have seen with David winning the set champs is Emerald Steel, Aggro. I played against several Kiwi Bird style Sapphire Steel aggro lists. So, and there is somewhat of a cult following for the dogs. Like I said, I think that is a little harder of a deck to play. So but the most beatable Amethyst Steel, I don't know. There's like a million decks out there, and they're all trying to beat Amethyst Steel, which is what most of them do. Ruby Sapphire was another one that was supposed to be the most beatable. That was really hard to beat. Sapphire Steel before Hiram Ban. Set 1 doesn't really count because it's basically just a limited format.
That was going to be my point when I touched on it, was that it's hard to it's easier to say that it's the most beatable now because of the card pool. In the earlier sets, there were very limited, if any, options to take care of the best decks, because the best decks were found really quickly with only 200 cards in rotation, right? And then
there was no way to beat them.
Yeah. So I think with 5 sets in rotation and all the cards out there, let alone Infinity with 10 sets, Amethyst Steel in Infinity is not a thing right now, so and that's a whole nother conversation. I know he's talking about constructed. And I just think that you can take almost anything you want to one of these set championships, within reason, and have a good shot at being successful with it. As we saw with David, Amethyst or Emerald Steel just came out of nowhere in a 45-person tournament and just dominated. So, a little bit off the rails there, but I feel like it's relevant that the card pool's a lot bigger. I don't know if it's the most beatable, but
I don't know. I would almost say it's maybe not the most beatable best deck, simply because there's a ton of decks that are trying to beat it, but none of them just like free win into Amethyst Steel, in my opinion. There's some that come closer than others, certainly, but with all of the decks that are really sort of aimed with the expectation of a mostly amethyst steel meta, um, it it does seem like it holds back pretty well for all the stuff that's being flung at it, right?
Yeah. Any thoughts, Vince?
Yep.
Before we move on.
I think you
Yep.
will cover it.
All right. Finally, a really good question here. We just got a new user in the Discord this week. So shout out to ZMilly99. They're asking, I'm brand new to Lorcana, so accumulating cards to start deck building with so many sets and a new set on the way seems overwhelming. How would you recommend getting started?
So,
And I think
I just want to
Go
say
ahead.
that I buy way too many packs, so I do not listen to anything I say on this. I'm gonna let you guys handle this one.
Yeah, I think I would feel comfortable starting with this one. This is something that I can completely understand. I mentioned it tonight when I said this question to Emily. She's like, "Oh, that's a really good question." I'm like, "Yeah," and I hopefully hopefully I can answer it appropriately for you. I have found here, they did not clarify in the Discord where they're located. Hopefully here locally in St. Louis where we can help them. I'd like to think that the community that we have here in St. Louis is a one of many around the country, around the world, that is just helpful to all the other players within it. Here in St. Louis, for example, I bring all my bulk to my league night, and I tell people take it. I have troves and troves of chapters 1 through current, saying take what you need from it, because I would rather you have the cards than they sit here and be in a box. And then if I would recommend going to your local shops, seeing if there's a community present. Hopefully there is, and I'd like to think a lot of people out there will be willing to help you. And there are a lot of resources with the single player decks. The name is escaping me. I'm looking at it right now. The Gateway product that is in the board game aisles of almost every shop is a great way to learn the game as well. But I know that your question is primarily accumulating cards, especially cheaply, when some of them can be very, very expensive. I think there are avenues to get those commons and uncommons really, really cheap, especially if you work with your local game stores. I know the ones here that we frequent are, super cheap to take bulk when you want, what you want. And I'm kind of rambling here, but the whole point of it all is that from my experience here in St. Louis, it's been a very generous community, and I hope that a lot more other ones around the world are like this one and will help you out along your way in getting the cards that you need, as well as putting in the effort yourself to buy the packs and everything that you want to enjoy that experience of opening packs and having fun with your peers and other Illumineers on pre-release weekend and big events and things like that. Did I make that? Did that sound good, Vince?
I mean, I think the things that I would just add, right, is like support your local game stores. It's like when I started Lorcana, I knew of one local game store, and now I know of like 13 in our area, and we're very lucky here in the St. Louis area. But even when I like travel and find like local game stores to go support, to buy, a pack or here or and stuff. And I would just say that, like, there's always a balance here to be struck. Like, I think Andy admitted at the beginning, like, I think Andy and Kirsten buy enough packs to satiate all of everybody in the St. Louis community.
I don't know where my
But
pile of
we
Legos went.
yeah, but we still buy a lot as is. And then I would also say too, like, if you're like, hey, I don't want to spend all that money to gamble and play on packs. There are also, besides LGSs that sell singles, you can go to partner.tcgplayer.com/ROV and find the cards that you like. And hey, the great thing is like, doesn't cost you anything, but it helps
Really?
support
Nothing?
a podcast. Nothing, not at all. Like, it does not cost you any extra than buying the card, and it helps support a podcast that you enjoy. But yeah, I think, but just echoing Brad, like, I know more than enough people probably all over have tons of bulk Commons, uncommons, probably some rares. But some of these decks require, like when we look at these lists that we talk about, or any of these decks, they have a lot of legendaries and super rares that can be pretty much legendaries are the ones that are going to be the most expensive cards.
Correct. Yeah.
To largely get. Like
two other places. Oh, go ahead.
What? Go on.
I know. I thought of two other places you might be able to get some bulk. One is kind of a joke, but if you happen to be in Disney World, we know a guy that wanders around Disney World and gives out bulk to folks. So you're doing good work out there, Carp. We appreciate it. And then the other one is serious though. If you do go to something like a DLC, or even if you're at something like Gen Con or PAX or any of these places that do have Lorcana events, I don't know if you saw this, Vince, but at Gen Con, there was a box right next to the registration table, like on the registration table, that was filled with bulk cards. And it got taken, the whole thing. And then the next day, there were 5 boxes filled with cards, and they all got taken. And I asked one of the people working there, she's like, yeah, like a family would come up with a bunch of kids, and kids would take handfuls and they'd be super happy. And so
I love that.
You could go there and, look. I saw people looking through those boxes, looking for stuff. What it is people play sealed, they play draft, they open packs for their prize packs, and they don't want to carry all of this bulk home. So they take a couple of the ones they might need and they throw the rest in the box. And I imagine you'll probably see that at most places where there's a Lorcana event, which is really cool.
Yeah.
There wasn't a box of bulk cards next to the Altered booth or the Riftbound booth, although Riftbound was different, obviously. But all these other tournaments going on, Pokemon, Magic. I didn't see them sharing a bunch of cards. That's why Lorcana's the greatest. Just saying.
No arguments here. And one last thing I wanted to add, because I like you said, you're a new player. If you're wondering what cards to get, even like I know it's overwhelming. There's over 1,000 cards. There's so many cards. Actually, it's probably 2,000 now with 10 sets, right? 200 cards a set. So I don't know if you're familiar with all the websites yet, and if you're in the Discord, so we can talk further on there. But look at sites like Dreamborn.inc and see, they have a whole catalog of every single card that's in the game. You can even track your quantities of those cards on there, or even the Disney Lorcana official app, and you can see all of the cards there. Take a look at what you like and start getting some ideas there.
Pushing folks to a secondary app when we've got an official app.
Yeah, I know. I realized as I was saying it that there are 2 very good places to do that. But so
the official app is great for collecting, and it has great visuals, and it's well put together, and I like it. When it comes to a more when it comes to a more competitive standpoint, though, I think maybe you might want to look at Dreamborn, and you might end up migrating there, like some of us have, for things like exporting your decks to share with us on Discord, which is another thing you should definitely do as you're building. Ask for advice. People love to give their opinions on what is fun and good and interesting, and anything can be had from Lorcana. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else?
Next
before
question.
We go to the last one. All right. From Lucas, he says, "What's something not related to TCGs that you consider a necessity when you pack for a tournament?"
Oh, I've got this one. I've got this one covered.
Take it away.
Hand sanitizer.
Yep.
Wet wipes.
Very
wet wipes. More hand sanitizer.
Mask, gloves, hazmat suit, spray, Lysol spray. 2319.
Also a very serious answer to everything that was said already. My go-to is Cliff Bars. I buy a whole box of Cliff Bars and throw it in my backpack.
Sponsored. Hashtag not an ad.
Not an ad at all. But
unless you want to sponsor us, I will. I've never.
Yeah, I won't turn it down
because I think they're probably gross. But if you sponsor us, I'll eat one live on camera. They're probably gross, but I'll eat one.
But yeah, they're my snacks in between every couple of rounds, especially at a big DLC. Like if you're going to a 9 round, or I guess it's 12 rounds now, but 2-day event, 2 3-day event, when you include sides, you're going to want snacks. You're going to want water. A water bottle is always something you want to have, with not just even TCG related, just in general. You want to stay hydrated for whatever it is you're doing and throughout the day. But water and Cliff Bars is my go-to for I know he said not related to TCGs, but like I'm affiliating it with going to
he meant like not like your deck box and your cards and your dice. I think he meant like when going to a TCG tournament, what's something other than like card related that you want. I think it was a good answer.
I told both of you guys before the podcast started, I am super tired. So that's why I kind of keep going off the rails here and rambling a little bit. But
water and Cliff Bars can both be had at what I think is the most essential, non-related to TCGs necessity that you pack, which is Wawa. They have them in Richmond. So if you're in Richmond, hit up Wawa. They have good breakfast. They have good lunch. # not an ad.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness, we would put your logo on our jerseys. Please sponsor us. They've got good soft pretzels, like the Philly style ones in the correct shape. So I load up my bag with a bunch of those soft pretzels. And maybe an extra breakfast sandwich.
Once a personal sponsor from Wawa. He would just like a person.
I would get a Wawa tattoo.
He would like you. Actually, what he would most prefer is, instead of sponsoring us, build one in the St. Louis area for him.
Yeah.
Oh God, we'd never see him again. He actually moved to this side of the river, probably.
They're building. So there's a Target. Vince knows this problem. There's a Target like 30 seconds from my house. But it's like next to this big, huge field, and they keep building stuff. And they're building really lame stuff like car washes and tire stores. And Kirsten and I both were like, man, they got all this extra space though. What else do you think they might build? We were like, Wawa. They need to build a Wawa here. And then she's like, we would never cook food ever again. That's all we would ever eat forever. And I was like, be a happy life.
All right, so we're ending that question with Wawa as the number one answer for what you should bring to a tournament. So that's it for Constituents Corner. Thank you to everybody who wrote in. If you are listening and you want your questions answered, please feel free to comment below or join our Discord, where you can ask your question in the Constituents Corner channel, where sometimes conversations just happen from the question alone before they even make it to the show. And if that's not good enough for you, you can always reach out to us on the socials at Rules of Villainy. And back to you, Vince.
All right. So we've talked a lot about the meta game in the past few weeks here, but I guess we'll spend a little bit more time here just to kind of deciding what we think is actually going to be at Richmond. So I'll start with you, Andy, since you've been doing the most play testing out of all of us here. What are you expecting to be the key decks at Richmond?
My list grows longer every day is really the problem. And I feel like I said it before, it's like stemmed from this like Amethyst Steel needing, finding a way to beat that. And then like also finding a way for your deck to do decent into like the other decks. I think we're going to see still probably Amethyst Steel is the most represented deck. I think we'll then see maybe at the tier below it something like Amber Amethyst, which is arguably the best sort of Amethyst Steel killer. Banisher, sorry. Well, but and then Baja probably will be in that range, as well as Dogs probably, and then I do think we're going to see a non-inconsequential amount of these very reasonable rogue decks, if you will. The Emerald Steel aggro that we've been seeing. I mean, our teammates and I have been, Vince was there. This was doing very, very well in testing, and I think Kirsten lost 5 times in a row. Amethyst Steel against this Emerald Steel. It does very, very well into Amethyst Steel and has enough aggro to do very well into other any other control decks. I also think, you know what? Let me go back. I think maybe Blurple has a spot right on the edge of that. Probably in that second tier. And
I feel like Blurple kind of ends up finding itself either like kind of in the discussion and the tier with Amethyst Steel and Emerald uh, uh, Emerald Sapphire. See, this is why ink colors, man, have the same problem that Brad does. Or it finds itself just out of it. And it's kind of depends on like where we are in the meta. And it feels like right now it's starting to be again back in that same discussion of being what we would say maybe is a top tier deck.
DKP's all in on it. I mean, I have not personally got his Metafy. DKP, if you'd like to give me your Metafy for free, I will gladly review it on a video. Just so you know, I've heard nothing but good things about it. All of my friends who have purchased it have said it's great. And maybe by the time this video comes out on my 14-hour drive to Richmond, maybe I'll just indulge myself in the DKP Blurple, because I have been testing that, and spoiler alert, I think it's pretty good. I think Blurple. So for me personally, sorry for the tangent. For me personally, I'm seeking that Ruby Amethyst kick that we had back in the day. That consistent, that every match is winnable Ruby Amethyst, where you're just like, where I think it was Brendan from Pod Canada described it as like, if you are just like 20% better than your opponent, if you make decisions and you get obviously lucky on some of the stuff, but make better decisions, if you can just be 20% better than them, you'll win every match. And I'm like, I want that. Like that, I want a deck that is incredibly consistent and just allows me to hopefully, I'm not the greatest, but like hopefully outskill my opponents and win. That's why I played Amethyst Steel last set. That's why I was playing Amethyst Steel the most this set. I think that deck is still very, very much like that. But in my bouts of deck anxiety, playing Amber Amethyst, playing Amethyst Steel, playing different versions of Amethyst Steel, we can talk about the Jafar effect that rules that I believe I think I put those vibes out into the world. I think Brad helped me. I think Rules of Villainy put those vibes out into the world. But Amethyst Sapphire Blurple has felt pretty good. It felt very consistent.
What do you think about Amethyst Emerald?
Amethyst Emerald, the burn deck.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
Brainiac.
Or Brainiac. I don't know.
Two different ones. Yeah.
Yeah. The control version of Amethyst Emerald is not bad, but I felt like when I practiced it against Eddie, I felt like Emerald Sapphire was just better. I'm not an expert on either of them, but when I was talking with Eddie and stuff, I think he kind of seemed to have a similar opinion that maybe Emerald Sapphire was just a little stronger than Emerald Amethyst. It does really fun things, and I think some of the unknown factor of it, I mean, everyone reads the Shift Cusco when you play it on them, right? They're like, what does it do?
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting one. We had a lot of cards in our hand when we played.
Yeah.
But
and then that guy runs 4 bend. It's
4?
1 bend.
I didn't know he ran 4.
He did when we were testing last week, and I was just like, bro, as I'm drawing like late in the game, like we're just trying to close it out, and I'm just like, I don't care that I have all these cards. I know you're going to bend me eventually. I'm just going to try to commit as much as I can and answer what I can of yours with the warded Prince Philip and all that nonsense, man. It's an interesting deck, but it's a frustrating deck too, because that bend to my will is now my least favorite card. It's so mean, especially when you have a Prince Philip that can come out and just wipe your board and just pay 7 ink to discard your hand, then you're just not playing the game anymore at all. You have nothing on board, nothing in hand, and it's just game over, man.
Problem is they don't ramp fast enough, in my opinion, because
Yeah.
you could play Bend to My Will as well in Sapphire Emerald. We actually saw it on stream with Knives. Shout out to Knives Nerd Corner. He basically had Under the Sea and Bend to My Will, I believe, in hand, and I think it was in the game against David in Top Cut, but whoever it was, they saw it with like Mowgli or maybe I don't know. I feel like they saw the hand, or maybe it was just us that saw it, but we were basically like, this game is locked out, right? Because if you empty your hand, it gets wiped. And if you hold the cards in anticipation of the wipe, your hand gets dumped. And so like, and then if both of them happen at the exact same time, like that is absolutely devastating. And it's just over at that point.
That's even worse because you can sing it. You can
Yep,
sing
yeah.
Under the Sea and then just Bend to My Will.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or with Emerald Sapphire, why I think it's a little
those are
better.
Those are the types of decks that Eddie really likes to play, though. Too.
Yeah.
Like very
Because he's a
similar,
maniac.
very similar to the Emerald Amber deck he was playing. Was it last set or the set before? I can't remember.
He played it in Infinity as well.
Before.
Key to Under the Sea combo. With Prince John. Yeah, Eddie wasn't my friend back then. No,
I know. Just but yeah, it's always fun, the games that I wouldn't say it's always fun. It's always interesting, the games that you're like, this is not fun. I'm not having a good time when I can't.
I'm not having a Baja Blast.
Yeah, because I got like, I'm just watching you play, man. I hope it's fun for you, because it ain't fun for me. But I do want to talk a little bit more about the aggro.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I was like a little skeptical about it, but honestly, seeing it yesterday, that it goes pretty fast, I think. For the meta we're in.
It's kind of a, I feel like it's just a bit of a dice roll. It has essentially draw cards, threatening characters, and instant lore. And there's a little overlap with all of them. Obviously, some cards threaten lore and draw you cards, like a Diablo. Some cards gain you lore and are a character, like White Rose or Honey Marin, right? That's the other one. It was kind of rough, but so we were practicing the other night, and one thing I kind of felt at Kristen from our team, Grapes Kristen and I were like partnered up there playing the same deck, and it felt like our decisions were very narrow, right? We made a couple really, really good ones, and there were some really, really important ones. And if obviously, if we're like Frank Carson level of doing math, with all the like equations floating past our head as we're figuring it out, we might have been able to come up with the statistically most probable solution. But I feel like we found ourselves saying, okay, well, if we had just done this differently, would we have been able to draw the extra card to get that extra free lore or something? We're it's almost like running an obstacle course, if you will, right? You're playing like the show Wipeout. You're just trying to dodge all of this other stuff, and eventually your opponent is going to get you. That big foam arm is going to come and smack you in the face, and you're going to slip on the soap filled runway you've got, and you're done for. But sometimes you draw like 4 knowledge and wisdom, and you just like GG, mate.
Yeah that
gross.
in the Inkcaster.
Yeah, I mean, the Inkcaster is like the main heart blood of it, right? If you get an Inkcaster and an Amethyst Chromacon down, you draw a card. You can play 2 cards every turn. You're drawing 2 cards every turn. All of your cards are basically 2 or less, and so as long as you get to like 2 or 3 ink, or 3 or 4 ink, sorry, then you'll just be able to play 2 cards a turn, gain a lore. Very similar to old school like spellbook, where you just kind of put this clock on. The difference is that the clock that you're putting on with this Inkcaster is being triggered not by paying 1 ink, but rather by playing 2 cards. And so they have to answer 2 cards. And a lot of times they can never answer the Inkcaster really.
Yeah, and one thing I also notice is that we see a lot of the Cheshire Cat in the Amethyst meta, and that card is harder to activate in this particular deck because you have such low cost to
Low strength.
strength
Yeah.
characters. But it was interesting to see Jimmy do things like use his support characters to actually buff up your characters, and then swing into them just so he could get the Cheshire effect off more effectively, which I think is like one of those kind of like big brain plays. But I think most players are much more straightforward or aren't gonna necessarily think outside the box unless you're, of course, listening to this podcast, which you should be.
Was that advertisement to the people who are not listening to us right now, Vince? Like, how are you getting people to listen to us?
We should clip that.
We could
clip that.
Exact second, clip it short. See, you're always talking about extra content, and here I'm delivering it up on a silver platter for you, Andy.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. You got me. Watch the podcast. All right, guys. Link in the description of this short.
But anyway,
Oh my god.
yeah, I just thought it was a really interesting matchup, and I think I was a little bit surprised how a deck that's so low to the ground, in this sense, really can compete. I think on a level, but I agree that it does feel like it's probably a toss up.
Yeah, it's kind of a big brain deck. Like it's interesting to have like put that all together. Whoever sort of brewed that up, but it's an interesting concept, but it is a bit of a dice roll. Sometimes it's entirely unstoppable, and other times it's just unfortunately has nothing it can do. The Emerald Steel is really, really interesting. Like I said, it was doing really, really well in our testing. The Chromacon is used in a way that
so gross.
Well, most people are like, ew, Chromacon's so terrible. I hate it. Like, it's hard to deal with. They're going to go aggro and I can't challenge all their characters because they're going to bounce mine back. And in that sense, I'm kind of like, that's easy Chromacon to beat. If they're not way ahead, in which case they've already probably won. You probably already, weren't. This is just the nail in the coffin. Then you can very easily race them. You can still take out more of their characters. They're never going to be able to stop one of these decks that is going to continue inking, continue playing bigger and bigger, better characters. But in this case, they use the Chromacon really tricky. They'll play an aggro character, right? And you'll be like, oh man, I gotta get that Merfolk off the board or something, right? And then, they'll quest the Merfolk, they'll have the Chromacon, and they'll have a dock on board. And you'll be like, you have to take out the Merfolk. And they're like, well, I'm gonna get my dock back. And then they're gonna play the dock and be able to get more and more cards. They draw a surprising amount of cards. They ink to a surprising high amount of ink. Goliath is played in that deck as a 3 or a 4 of almost, depending on the list. And it's like, it's a surprisingly tricky deck. It also has the Webby package to like get free lore when going second and try and keep up.
For ink.
Plus it can do strength things, right? I don't know if it plays Thunderbolt, probably not. But the other really interesting thing is like it sings strength on turn 3. So it sings strength on turn 3. Most of these decks are going 1, 2, 3, play a 4-drop character, sing strength on turn 3. So if you go Webby, and then 2 1-drops, and then on 3 you shift the Webby, and you could play another 1-drop if you really wanted to, and then sing strength to remove, their 1, 2, 3 drop, whatever they have. And it kind of that early level of tempo, it's very similar to something like a cloud kicker, or an early strength, like an early strength from Cindy, right? 1 drop Cindy,
Mhm.
or an early Zeus from 2 drop Turtle Boy, Vanessa, for the OGs out there, the old folk. I feel like all these Lorcana Gen Zers only know Turtle Boy. They don't know my girl Vanessa.
I mean, it runs 16
Back in
1
my day.
drops.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Vanessa was reprinted, so they know her. This Turtle Boy is, I think, sticks around longer with that resist.
Yeah, now that Rapunzel's gone, nobody cares
Yeah.
about Vanessa.
About
my
a
girl
4 body
Vanessa.
on Vanessa, yeah.
Disrespect.
I was gonna say something.
But using that
what it is.
Chromacon basically as a draw engine is
Oh, that's what it
really
was.
Yeah.
a really great play. Because you're pressing your advantage by putting more characters on the board. And I think what we've really overall seen in this meta is that with some very few exceptions, there just isn't a way for a lot of decks to handle wide boards unless you can hit those kind of narrow exceptions, right? Like the Prince Philip malicious mean and scary combo. Maybe you could
Under the Sea.
do Under the
Under the Sea
Sea.
hurts this deck really bad, which is why you got Ursula, but no Pete. That was something I was interested about. No Pete.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you ain't cheating if you're the one making the rules, right?
Why would they not have Pete though?
I don't think it has Pete. Vince is looking at the list. Does it have Pete?
No,
It does
I
not
don't think it does.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about that.
It's too
If it's
expensive.
because, yeah. I mean, he
I
tops out
also-
at Goliath at 6, and before that it's Webby at a 4 cost, but you're most of the time just paying that for 2. Or playing that for 2. So,
Yep.
The way I look at this, though, if I had to guess here, is that Emerald Chromacon can also pull back the Ursula if you really needed it to replay it. And
Sure.
ripping the song out of somebody's hand is always going to be significantly better than just temporarily pushing it off for a turn.
You know
which
what
is
eats
Pete
this
does.
deck?
What?
Spooky Sight. Like
Yeah,
Spooky Sight.
And
Out of
Under
all
the
the
Sea. Under
characters
the Sea as
in
well.
this deck, it takes care of all but 8 of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
But they've gotten a lot of early aggro out of you, if you are a deck that is playing Spooky Sight, most likely. And they have you're also a deck that's ramping, so especially with Webby, they've kept up, and all they need is like a Goliath or a Doc, and they can just refill the board quite quickly. But yeah, Spooky Sight would be rough.
I kind of want to play my Blurple into this. I mean, I'm only running 1 Spooky Sight, but like I have in practice and even on Saturday against Ron when I was just basically throwing that game for all intents and purposes. But I could get to Spooky Sight on 4.
Yeah, with the Cindy, right? You're playing Cindy?
No, with I'd ramp on 1 or ramp on 2.
So you need
and then ramp
3
again.
ramp pieces?
Yeah,
Out of 8?
But I did it. I cleared basically his entire board except his Genie, like super early. But then at that point, I was just like, I had other things on my mind with the cat and everything. So
yeah, I mean,
I'm thinking about I'm thinking about playing this against this deck and just how Spooky Sight just eats it as I'm looking at it even more. But like you said, the open with Merfolk and Flynn, and even if you just turn shift Webby on 2, even like you just. It's gross.
Flynn is a bad early card.
Yeah.
Flynn is a late game card for certain. You do not want to play Flynn on 1 whatsoever.
For sure.
100%. You want to play that later in the game. The idea is that later in the game it costs only 1, but threatens 2 lore or 3, challenger if needed. So, yeah, I don't know. In the testing I was a part of, and I saw it 8 Amethyst Steel like 5 games to 1 or something like that. and then it did well into like dogs. I think Under the Sea it's like big kryptonite, right? I think I watched an Under the Sea happen that took everything but a Goliath and a boosted Flynn, maybe a Calhoun. I don't remember what it was, but Calhoun's also a really nice one to have in the deck because it does help check early aggro. See, that's one of the big things that like these aggro decks can never do, which is fight back. I think that's why Diggy Diggy Hole worked fairly well. It had the songs, and it also had the mine that you could move to do some damage. You need a way that as you're racing to the finish, if somehow they look like they're getting out ahead of you, you need a way to just like get rid of them, or stumble them up a little bit more. So yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting deck. I think unfortunately I went to practice on Monday night and I thought for sure I was playing Amethyst Steel. I was just going to try and decide if I'm playing a little more traditional Amethyst Steel or if I'm going to play this sort of new brew of Amethyst Steel I'm trying to work on. And I left there thinking, well, there's like 10 decks now. I've got to practice all before Richmond to try and learn and see if I want to play one of them. Yeah, I thought, man, we should have had this question. I'm gonna go back into the mailbag because I saw this question in here, and I'm gonna ask you guys now, because you have to answer. Suppose you were competing. This is Jackalope Spam asks in the Discord. Suppose you were competing in Richmond. What are you playing? So I know you can't make it, Brad. That's unfortunate.
Thought we answered this last
Vince,
week.
you are Lord Guy. Did we? Did we?
I thought we did, but maybe not.
Okay.
It's still in the pinned messages, so
I'm asking.
go for it.
It was asked 2 days ago. We definitely didn't answer it last week.
My bad.
So
My
Vince,
bad.
Brad, who wants to go first? What are you gonna play? Because he also wrote parentheses. Andy doesn't have to imagine nor answer, I suppose, because I'm not imagining I'm going to DLC Richmond. I will be, and I will be competing. And I won't tell you what I'm playing, largely because I don't yet. Because I myself don't know. So, Vince, what would you play? I know you're going to lore guide. What would guide your lore to 20 if you were to be playing in the event?
I think I would probably play the deck I'm most comfortable with right now, which is Amethyst Steel. But because I'm a lore guide, I haven't done as much testing. And I recognize that now, when I think early on the meta, there were like maybe 3 decks I would consider myself playing. Today, I'd probably be, I'd have that same panic that 72 card Vince had in Seattle, where I would be like, oh no, I'm going to rebuild a whole new deck for the next day.
I'll never get over that.
Before, which you should not do. That's bad advice. But yeah, I would stick with the Amethyst Steel just because it's the deck I'm most comfortable with. But I would certainly, especially given this past weekend, look at something like Amethyst Amber as a deck that I did not think was good, but is actually better than I think the deck is better than the combo version.
Oh yeah. I like the deck much better than the combo version. It just sacrifices a little bit against aggro, I feel, for a little bit better against the control decks. Being able to pop that Prince Philip with the pumpkin is just like so nice.
Yeah.
Okay, Brad. Book Blurple.
Yeah, I think that's the right answer. But after Milwaukee and all my mirror matches, like literally all of Milwaukee was just playing Blurple mirror matches or Amethyst Steel, and I just got so over it so quickly that I would probably consider playing something else. I don't know what, like at this point, I know that we're 2 days out from traveling to it, right? So I'd have to have my mind made up. David's, I have no practice on David's Amethyst or Emerald Steel deck, but that was intriguing to me, mostly because it was unknown. I like when things come out like that, and suddenly, we saw with Alex's different variation of Ruby Sapphire, things like that interest me the most. But I would be going to Richmond with the complete understanding that I'm going to have fun and see what happens, not have any ambition of actually doing, moderately well with something like that. So, the right answer is my Grimorum Blurple, which is just Blurple with basically a couple
The book.
Grimorums thrown into it. But, yeah, that would have to be the right answer, but
Well,
I would
so
consider others.
you just buy DKP's Menify, hashtag
Yeah.
not an ad, and then listen to what he says about Blurple, and then make sure your book can counter all of that, and then all of your mirrors will be perfect. You'll be good to go.
Yeah. And I would run that spooky site like we talked about on the Discord today, and you told me you were
That's
going to
not
call
helping
out
you into Blurple.
DKP. Yeah. What's that?
That's not helping you into Blurple, by the way.
No, it's not helping me into Blurple at all. But spooky site I live and die by right now. But and it's been doing great. But in that matchup, no, it doesn't do anything.
In a lot of matchups, it doesn't do too much.
Well, when you think that half the field is going to be Amethyst Steel, it does quite a bit.
So the problem with
Are you
Amethyst
kidding me?
Steel is if they can continue to
It's
draw
38 cards of that deck.
Yeah, well, only if you use it on the last turn when there's 38 of them on the board, and the point is if you're getting to a turn 4 spooky site, Mister, I've got 4 sails in my hand.
Yeah.
Then what are you going to get rid of 3 characters, and now I'm going to have 7 ink, and I'm just going to be able to play, Captain Hook,
When I did it,
redraw my hand, play a bunch more. It's going to be real rough,
When I basically threw that game with Ron on Saturday, I let him just go, build his. He had 4 or 5 things on board that my spooky site hit super early, and it also took out my Rafiki and my Basil that was on board as well. But that also got me in position to be able to play Hades and Demona, and I'll start to refill. But yeah, it's not ideal, but it's one of those things where it's just I'm going to tech this in for wide boards because I've said it the last several weeks now. I expected to see Amber Steel aggro, which I did in my first matchup of the day, and it saved me. But ultimately, that's a card that if you find it early, you want to get rid of it unless you're in that specific matchup. Or on my altar for the second game of that Amber Steel matchup, I kept it from the start because I know it was a one of, and I'm like, if this game goes anything like the first game, he's going to go wide, and this card is going to save me from utter defeat.
How many
how
spooky sites did you have in your deck?
Just one.
Just one. Brad teched a one of spooky site in his Blurple deck to a 45-person set champs because of one child.
And he wasn't even there.
And he wasn't even there. Just one kid. Blake, if you're out there, you are a very spooky sight for Brad, okay?
Yeah, you put the terror into Brad. The terror.
Some people tech for a whole deck. Some people tech for a single card like a Chromacon. Some people tech for
Blake
for a single player. That's what I'm gonna. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make a deck that destroys DKP's Blurple. All right.
That's it. That's all.
Every other deck, no, just DKP.
I mean,
it's gonna target specifically DKP playing his own Blurple list, and
it's not a bad strategy going into Richmond either because a lot of people are going to be playing that specific deck. We saw it this past weekend at our set championships. When Michael won at Wild Growth, he said this is just DKP's list with the octopus variant.
Well,
and he explained
DKP
why.
Had both versions. He has the octopus or the Rafiki. Yeah.
And then him and Ryan's deck were basically identical with a few number changes on the elephant and the hypnotic strength and a few other things. But the one big difference was the one drop, Rafiki versus octopus, and I understood both of them. But it's just evident that DKP put this out. 2 great players here in the community played both versions of them, and they won their set championships of 18 plus people over the weekend. So
17.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Oh well. 17 at Wild Growth, and I think Manicore had 22. But yeah, 17 plus.
So what are the last thoughts here about the meta? Actually, how about this? How about we give our last thoughts, and then we also predict which deck is going to win DLC
Yes.
Richmond. Andy, you want
I
to take it
predict
first?
Frank Karsten's deck will win DLC round. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I think it might be dogs. It might be a dog's day. I'm gonna go Blurple. I'm going Blurple. Lock it in. Final answer. Blurple. DK please. DKP's Blurple. Piloted by DKP.
DK, please.
DK please.
All
Right.
All right. Brad,
What do I think's gonna win? Oh man, you go first. I don't know. I don't
All
know.
right.
Yeah, you go first.
Okay, so Andy said Blurple, so I'm not gonna say Blurple. I'm gonna lock in. Amethyst Amber. I wasn't hot on it a week ago, but now I'm making a 180 turn. I'm saying I'm going from cold, freezing cold to red hot on this deck. Red hot.
Super spicy. What do you think, Brad?
I'm
99 puppies.
No, I'm gonna say something I didn't expect to say. I want to see Ruby Amethyst come back.
Ooh, okay. I thought you were gonna say Amethyst Steel. I was gonna say, can we get Brad to vote?
That is something I can't even comprehend saying myself, because I don't want it that badly.
You know that movie Billy Madison, where he's got like the list of people behind him. That's Brad with Amethyst Steel.
Yeah.
I do want to shout out Mike, my friend Mike from Legends of the Inkwell. He is test running a spicy deck on Friday. I don't want to give away the sauce or anything, but I want to wish him luck, because I hope if it works out on Friday, he's going to run it in the main event on Saturday, and I'm going to be rooting for you, because it is exciting. Yeah, so shout out to him. Hope it works out, and I can't wait to see the results or hear about the results when we inevitably talk about it, because I might run it as a set championship this weekend. We'll see.
All right. And with that, let's go to
Villain of the Week.
Is it me? All right. Apologies to Gantu. All hail from Whispers in the Well. Our villain of the week is the Horseman Strikes. Is a 3-cost inkable action. Draw a card. You may banish chosen character with evasive. Just when you thought you'd escaped. Art by Jaime Puga. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. But yeah, this card is Pumpkin, who Andy alluded to earlier, throwing pumpkins. This card has been a menace. It's been in every Amber deck that has been played, to my knowledge, because of the evasive problem that we have in Amethyst, which is also being played like crazy with Dumbos and Genies and Elsas and whatever else. But
it's not played in dog stacks. That's for sure.
That's actually true. My bad.
It's only played in Amber Amethyst, but I think that this is
also
basically
an Amber Ruby. Hey, let me drink.
Okay, you're right. If Amber Ruby were actually played, it would be played in Amber Ruby. I'll give you that. Sorry, Brad and Humble. But
it was a lot promo card.
I don't know where my promos went. I think they're in decks, honestly. The promo version, and I have the epic version as well. But I think this card is sick. It's basically like Horseman, the Headless Horseman. If you think about how Ruby Amethyst found a place in the meta a little bit by being able to say, okay, well, it's all about these evasive wars. We're Amethyst. We can play the same Amethyst cards as you can. Strength is what Amethyst Steel uses to try and take out characters. Well, what if ours was slightly more limiting or slightly different, and it had a body, and it was Horseman, the Headless Horseman? Takes out Genie, the biggest target of them all. Well, the Horseman Strikes isn't on a body, but it does draw you a card, and it does take out all of the evasive threats: the Iago, the Dumbo, the Genie, the Elsa, the Prince Philip, which, man, that feels great. Pumpkining a Prince Philip. So the card really found a strength in the evasive wars. Throwing who would have thought the counter to evasive characters were just throwing pumpkins at them?
Yeah,
Which
we've been seeing
I
it
mean,
a
that's
lot
his
lately.
head.
A lot of
I mean,
people
that's
testing.
it's pretty powerful. His
Yeah,
pumpkin head.
I like that you prefaced this like this is a lot like the Horseman. I'm like, yeah, he's literally on it on the card. I knew what you were getting at, but it just cracked me up the way you prefaced it in that regard. But yeah, this card's annoying. I haven't played a whole lot against the Amethyst Amber, but every time I have, it comes out, and of course, being on that Blurple where half the deck is evasive, it's scary to put out the Dumbo or Genie. You have to make a choice. A lot of times you don't want to play the Dumbo first because you want to get instant value out of it. So you want to have an evasive on board that you can get the ability from when you play the Dumbo. But there are times where it's like he's the only turn 4 that I have, and this card's like I'm going to play Dumbo right now and just lose him probably in this matchup because they're going to have that Horseman strikes almost every time. And yeah, don't like that.
Well, you were playing him in your Amber Ruby deck early on in the set.
Yeah, I did have it in there's 2 different versions out there that I was paying attention to. Actually,
he had Headless Horseman and the Horseman strikes in the Amber Ruby.
Hunter was playing Wanderful's version last week at the collector store that I think has 3 or 4 of Horseman strikes in it, and is a very, very good deck. A little bit different than Humble's, but yeah, you need it, especially in this meta where but not only is evasive prevalent in Blurple, but it's also in Amethyst Steel. Every Amethyst deck is playing those same evasive cards in Genie and in Dumbo. So this card is needed to get rid of those immediately, and the extra bonus of getting a card from it is just so good.
Yes, but if it didn't get you a card, it honestly might not be good enough.
Yeah,
I think that's right. I think the fact it replaces itself is a huge bonus here. But his actions, it's a great card. I like it. But
Ursula can't hit it.
There's not really. That's right.
Yeah.
It's not a song. But can
Mowgli.
But
Mowgli is your choice. So, in the Amber Amethyst, the only really super competitive deck that is playing this, you have this. You have World's Greatest. You have
Guidebook.
You also have Lantern, that you could all potentially ditch instead of it, which I think is really one of the biggest reasons why this card kind of works, and why it didn't work in Ruby Amber. With Amber being able to have the Lantern and provide the ramp, it means you're more easily able to find these quote unquote free turns where you aren't forced to pressure to a certain amount, and you could do something like simply answer a Genie with a Horseman strikes, or play a Woodchuck Guidebook and just draw a few more cards to replenish your hand. I mean, playing Amber Amethyst, I get to like a billion lore, or not lore ink, a billion ink. It's just like way too much.
You only need 20.
Yeah, no, like a lot of ink. You get, you eventually get like a later game. It's like when you get in later game Sail or Tipo or something like that. You get a later game Lantern, you play that out there as well. But I mean, I'll have 7, 8, 9 ink, plus 2 lanterns, and it's like I could play a ton of cards. It makes Demona against you really bad. Most of your characters are evasive. You're not playing too many, and you don't have this like dependency on having a bunch of character. Your 1, 2, 3 drop, and then strength kind of thing. Like you don't have this dependency on that because your primary removal of the biggest, baddest Genie on the block is not dependent on you having 4 characters on board. So it is very much favored into Amethyst Steel for sure.
Yeah. Any other last words here? All right, let's talk about the artist.
All right. Jaime only has 3 cards in the game. A new artist to Disney Lorcana. We're looking at the Horseman Strikes, all 3 versions of that, of course, the standard, the epic, and the promo. From a few sets ago, Bolt, down but not out. 0-4 quest for 4 comes in exerted. And Raksha, I don't know how to pronounce that, but that is a 5-3 wolf from the Jungle Book and in the ruby color, 3-cost inkable. But certainly probably going to be more cards in certainly probably in the same sentence. Come on, Brad. Will be more cards in the future. But yeah, that's it. If you want to see any more of the art and illustrations from Jaime, we'll have a link in the description below. And hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right. But yeah, that's it.
Well, let us know your thoughts on Villain of the Week. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you're joining us on audio, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
And if you're joining us on YouTube, which if you're not, you really should, we have a ton of fun over here. Be sure to hit that like, subscribe, ring that bell. We are some percentage of the way to 1,000 subscribers. Please help us get there. We really appreciate your views.
And we understand your time is valuable, so we appreciate you spending a little bit of it with us. If you would like to follow along as we plot our devious plans, consider following us on our socials. We're on Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, and the platform formerly known as Twitter at Rules of Villainy. We also have a growing community on Discord, which you can join with the link below.
Until next week, stay safe, fellow villains. I totally did that on purpose.
I
know
he
you did.
exaggerated that one.
I was like, and I was really hoping I could keep a straight face doing it, but I can't. But we're going to leave it in. So until next week, stay safe, fellow villains. Be wary of wannabe heroes who want to disrupt your villainous plans. And as always, remember the rules of villainy.
Good luck in Richmond.